A new AI startup called Discovery Loop has set out to boost the speed of scientific experimentation. It was started by former leaders at Google, including the company's chief scientist, Jeff Dean, and has backing from high-profile investors, including Khosla Ventures, which co-led the seed round. Khosla Managing Director Samir Kaul is here to talk about it. Samir, welcome to the program.
Thanks a lot,
This
Ed,
is
for having
one.
me.
You're very welcome. This is one where people kind of want the backstory. So like all good stories, let's start at the beginning. How did this all come about?
Well, there's a lot of talk about this magical deck that apparently has been out there for the financing. And,
Yes.
and as the guy that's leading the seed round, I'd like to see the deck, which I've yet to see. So there's a lot of lore already about this. Look, when guys like Jeff Dean and his team, who are responsible for so many innovations at Google, TensorFlow, TPUs, Gemini, they come to you and say, look, we're coming up with we're going to leave after a collective 80 years at Google to start a new company that's going to be based in engineering and research and improving science. How do you say no? We were just honored and thrilled that Jeff considered us to co-lead this round.
You know, Samir, you will appreciate, right, that the headlines of Jeff but others leaving Google and the kind of the changes in structure they made, that was big news. And so what was kind of the latency? When did these conversations about Discovery Loop start relative to that period of changes at Google?
It's all relatively recent. This isn't something that's been hatched, at least with us, for a year or something along those lines. It's relatively recent. It moved very quickly just because of the caliber of the founders. And it's very consistent with our thesis. So we were the only venture firm in the first round of OpenAI because we believed in LLMs. We were the first money in a company called General Intuition because we believed in world models. And RSI, we believe, is going to be the key to advancing science and engineering principles.
Yes.
RSI is great. AI is going to design experiments. It's going to test and figure out what the results of that experiments are going to be. And then it's going to design another thousands and thousands of parallel experiments in a closed loop system to give you answers about what type of magnets should be used for fusion, types of battery materials for solid-state batteries for electric vehicles, for drug discovery, for drug development. I mean, it's just an incredible tool, like LLMs, like world models.
Samir.
And to have a guy like Jeff and his team lead that effort is just a dream.
So that dream is what I want to get into, because OpenAI, Anthropic, Google DeepMind, like other larger labs, are looking at similar domains. Mm-hmm. That's not their sole focus. So what is the distinction with Jeff and the Discovery Loop team? What is their technical advantage? Well,
they've developed many of the principles that allow you to do RSI. And second, I think the large companies, especially if you're public, you can't be as focused and take as many risks as you can as a private company. Jeff's sole focus with Sanjay and Oriel and Kwok are going to be RSI. That's it, for science and engineering. He doesn't have 15 other masters to respond to. That's going to be his sole focus. He's going to clearly be able to recruit a killer team and stay focused on that big prize.
You started this conversation saying, if there was a pitch deck, I didn't see it. So it sounds like the evaluation of the potential here was on their legacy, their work to date in this field. Is that fair?
Well, it's what the potential opportunity is. The company that we've seen it already. You've talked a lot about Anthropic on your show this morning, but Anthropic and OpenAI and pioneering frontier models, it's been speculated that combined they're already at $100 billion of revenue and nearly $2 trillion of market cap. And if you believe that RSI is equally as profound and as impactful, and then you've got four gentlemen who are as distinguished as these four, it makes it a relatively quick investment decision in our investment committee.
We're getting into the domain of the opportunity. as referenced by the potential return. And it's so interesting, like Discovery Loop is also structured as a public benefit corp,
sure.
right? So going in at that seed stage, how do you get sort of the venture scale return from that structure?
Well, I don't think that structure inhibits that at all. In fact, that structure may attract different types of engineers that want to work on this problem and be at a public benefit corporation. I mean, look, we invested in OpenAI when it was still a nonprofit, and it may be the most profitable investment we've ever made in 25 years.
Right. I appreciate you guys are not disclosing the size of the round nor the valuation. It's a seed stage round. But as we've written about a lot this year, the term seed is starting to not really mean anything. A coconut seed, a mango seed round. You know, think about like humans and, you're laughing, but think about humans and, right?
Yeah.
A small group of individuals raising hundreds of millions of dollars out the gate at a very lofty valuation. Would you say that Discovery Loop is on par with that level?
Well, the prize is big enough that it warrants the round and the valuation that Jeff and his team have achieved. Let me just put one thing in perspective, Ed. So when I moved out to Silicon Valley in 2005, soon after the word unicorn was coined for a company with $1 billion valuation, meaning it was so rare it was like a unicorn. You fast forward a decade or so after that word was coined, you now have 20 or so trillion-dollar companies, and a unicorn, by the old definition, is being funded on a weekly basis. So you have to reset everything in terms of what valuation gives you venture scale returns, what exactly a seed round is, because we may be sitting here in 5 years where there's a dozen or so $10 trillion companies.